Hello everybody, this is Kevin here. Today I'm going to give you a very quick start overview of the Pixel Hue Q8 system. I'll make other videos showing the P10, P20, P80 and whatnot, but this one is the Q8. So maybe you have a gig coming up, maybe you're going to come take a training class, you want to get a leg up, maybe you just want to play around. I'm going to use the Pixelhue software, and I am going to use a simulator. If I were on a live system, it would pop up here on this page, but for right now, it's going to be a simulated device. First thing I need to do is create a simulated Pixel Hue system. To do so, I'll go to Simulation Devices and hit the big plus button. Window's going to pop up, and it's basically going to say what type of sim do you want to create. The options I have are the P20, P20DS, P10, Q8. Note these systems will vary based on what software version you're using. I am on version, what am I on? I think I'm on 1.6.2. Yes, 1.6.2. So these are the lists as of 1.6.2. And I'm going to do the Q8. If you wanted to, you would be able to customize your input and output cards here. You can add your ST2110 card, for example. You can change the DisplayPort card, but I'm going to keep things at the stock configuration. You can also set them to none. So if you know that you're using a 4x4 configuration, for example, or a fully populated 6x4, you are able to create the simulation for it. Do note, if you're going to build your show offline, it is important to make sure that your cards match with your actual system. Because yes, you are able to take a simulated show and load it onto a live system. So I now have my simulator here. It is already running. If not, you're able to hit start in the lower left hand corner. Mine says shut down, or you can double click. So if I double click on the device, it's going to enter into the simulation of it. And sure enough, here I have my Pixel Hue Q8. So I'm just going to give you a very brief tour of the software, kind of get you up and running and building, and that'll be that. On the left-hand side, you're going to have your resource browser. Here I see all my devices. In the center, you have your visual programmer, and on the right-hand side, you have your properties. So once again, you have your resources, visual programmer, properties. The cool thing with properties is this is dynamic. So whenever I select different elements of the software, the properties will change. So if I click the top bar here of the unit name, I'm able to see the overall device information. I can rename my Q8. I'll call it Kevin's Awesome Q8. It shows me the version I'm on, the device serial number, MAC address, and here I can change the IP addresses. IP address can be changed on the front OLED of the system, but you can do it here as well. HDCP, we are HDCP compliant. You're able to enable this as a full system-wide system setting, or as a input-output connector-based system. Personally, I prefer setting my HDCP compliancy at the connector rather than at the system. And then your time zone, device backup, so on and so forth. While we're on this page, here's where we do our input backup. So if I have an input source, for example, so I have input 1-1, I want to create a backup of that source, I do so through here. I enable backup, I hit add, I set my primary source, and I set my backup source. You have the options of having primary source preferred or auto switch. Auto switch means when the signal is disconnected, it will automatically switch back. It'll automatically switch to backup. With primary source preferred, when the primary is reconnected, it'll switch it back for you. Depending on your application, maybe you want to have this enabled, maybe you want to have it disabled. I'm going to keep auto switch on, but I'm going to turn off primary source preferred. You're going to note you can only do one backup for every primary. However, you are able to do a backup of a backup. So I could set 1-2 and have that be 1-3. So you're able to be quite redundant on here. I can also manually switch these by selecting the connector. Nifty. All right, I'm going to turn that off. I don't want it now. Actually, no, let's clear it. Groovy. So the way Pixel Hue works, at least on the Q8, is on every input card, you can do 8 4K at 60 inputs. Depending on the card, you might have up to 12 physical input connectors. So what you do is you select the card itself, and now on the right-hand side, you're able to select any 8 connectors you want. So I can deselect some display ports, and I can enable my SDI. Do note the deinterlacer is enabled by default as of version 1.6.2. So if you're doing a progressive signal, I do recommend you disable a deinterlacer. This is going to get your overall latency down a little bit lower. I'm going to set the parameters, and away we go. Super cool. So we've already now seen selecting the device, selecting the input card. Now let's see selecting the connector. So as I mentioned, you can use any 8 connectors you want. I can use the top, really any 8. I can use SDI, HDMI, DisplayPort, any combination of any connectors that I want. When I select the connector, I can see the properties on the right-hand side. On a live system, I will see a thumbnail of it. But I'm going to call this one, let's do Playback 1. Playback 1. And we see that this is HDMI 2.0 and input connector 1-1, 3840 60 Hz, 8-bit, 444, Rec 709. Here I can choose if I want to turn on HDCP. Here I can also do what's called the info frame override. So if I want to force 10-bit, or if I want to force HDR10 or HLG that the system's not seeing, I can set that here. EDID. I am able to do EDIDs of up to 8192 wide by 8192 tall on HDMI and DisplayPort. They all support this. So what I can do is I can add my EDID here and hit apply, or I can go to custom and type in my calculator. So for example, I could do, let's do 3000 by 3000, and I could select my refresh rate, hit apply, and I've now set this EDID for 3000 by 3000. One very important note, if you're using an Apple computer, I do recommend you enable compatibility mode. This is for Mac compatibility mode. That's going to allow your custom resolution to work. You will not require Switch ResX, better display, a USB-C to DisplayPort connector, etc., etc. Enable this, hit apply, and your EDID should work fine, assuming the computer can support it, of course. Then we have effects. These are just overall color, saturation, brightness, hue, etc. And then we have DSK. Can't really simulate this on the simulator too much, but options we have are Smart, Luma, or Chroma. You know what Luma key is, you know what a Chroma key is. A Smart key is nifty. What this allows you to do is this allows you to pick a coordinate. And what it does is it's going to use the appropriate type of key, whether that's a Luma key or a Chroma key, and apply it for you automatically. So that's really, really handy. Now, if you know exactly what you want on your Luma key, you can apply that, of course. Same as your Chroma key. Then you get all the spill, the shadow, the highlight. But Smart Key works really, really, really well. Cool. So we've seen the system, we've seen the input connector card, we've seen the input connector. Let's look at the output card. So on the output card, you do not need to pick the 4 outputs. So the way it works is you can do 4 4K at 60 outputs per card. HDMI, SDI, and the top 2 fibers are all linked together as output 1. Then we have output 2, output 3, output 4. So no matter what, these are all connected. The fiber will output the Novastar fiber protocol. So if you're going to like a VX1000, an MX40, or the EP4, I believe is what it's called, you can utilize that. It does not utilize SMPTE formats, so you do need to have a Novastar-based system for it. So by default, they all will work together. If we see here on the right-hand side, you can name your output. You can set the HDMI type for HDCP. You can set the bit depth, chroma subsampling, and all that. To set the EDID, we go to timing. And if I break SMPTE protocol, let's say I do 7680 1080, it's going to give me a warning. At this timing, SDI connector has no output because SDI does not support custom resolutions, thus it turns red. It does work on the fiber outputs though. Same rules apply. We can do custom resolutions of up to 8192 by 8192. Do note, as your signal gets wider, it must get shorter. So for example, if I were to do 8192 and I try to do 2160, for example, it will let me, but you're going to see that the max it can do it is at 30 hertz. So if I want to get this up to 60 hertz, I must drop either the width or the height to get this under 600 megahertz. But just to show you some fun things though, if I'm at 800 by 600, I can actually go all the way up to 240 hertz. When I'm at 1920 1080, I can go up to 144 hertz. Really cool for those e-gaming tournaments. Nice. And then we have effects, which are the overall color effects again. That is the basic setup of the system. At this point now, we can go to our screen creation and start working on other things. So this is the device page. Now we can go to the screen page. So here's how we build a screen. We have two ways. We can hit create now, where we hit the plus in the upper left hand corner. I'm going to hit create now, and it's going to say, cool, this is screen number 1. I can have the properties here. I can call it whatever I want. If I want to call it outboard projection. And now I can pick one of my output connectors from the bottom. So I'm going to take my connector, and I'll do my 38402160, and I'm going to drop it here. When I select the connector, I can set a position. Now note, this is not a canvas position. This is really just an arbitrary measurement for this one connector, so it can really go wherever I want it to go. I can set area of interest. I can turn on test patterns. I have, once again, color effects. I can set the edit again. So if I forgot to set the edit or I want to change it, I don't have to go back to the device page. I can actually do this through here. And then advanced, we have some fun things: connector rotation, virtual pixels. I'll show you that in just a second. So now I'm going to build I'm just going to call this a silly demo screen. I'm just going to show some stuff off now. So check this out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 2 connectors. And what I can do now is, let's say I want to set these up side by side. Rather than having to move them around, I can use these alignment tools. Nice. Or I can do 2 by 1. Cool, cool, cool. If I hit advanced, I can now turn on edge blending, set the blending that I want. Let's say I want to do this type of blending, and I could set my overall edge blending and feathering. Yay, how fun. Turn that off. I have LCD bezel compensation, but let me do some other fun things. So now if I come here and go to advanced, I can do connector rotation. I'll select this connector 90 degrees, and I can actually do this on one screen. Always keep in mind, when here on your basic, you're going to have your mosaic size. The mosaic supports negative space between the screens. Cool. I'm probably getting a little too ahead of myself, though, for this basic video. So I'll call this my center screen. I'll have another one where I just go really crazy. And then I'll build one more for another, I don't know, do like a downstage monitor or something. Cool. So now I have 3 screens, and I can now come to my programming page. And what I'm going to do now is hit multiple select, and now I can enable these screens. So you're going to notice that there's 2 ways to enable the screen. I can have it be shown up, and then I can also have it just be highlighted in blue. When it's highlighted in blue, it means it's armed and ready to go. So that means it's going to be saved in a preset. It's also going to be switched with a all-trans. So what I want to do now is I want to take my source, I want to drag it onto my screen. Actually, I'll do a different one. And now what I can do is I can hit 1-to-1, do pixel to pixel, or I can hit fill entire screen. And I'm going to fill the entire screen with each one. If I like my look, here I can now hit take or cut. Take will be a fade. And notice it's going to be what we call an A-B style switch. That means that whatever was in program will go to preview when I hit take or cut. So I can just sit here and kind of go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. If I want to build a preset of this, which that's your goal, I'm going to come here to preset, screen preset, I'm going to hit save from preview. And I'll call this preset number 1. And away it is. And now let's test preset number 1. I'm going to clear out my layers. I'm going to hit preset 1. It recalls it, and away we go. Super cool. We have our multiviewer. Here I'm able to see my screens. I have my program. I have my preview, program, preview, program, preview, and then I have all my input sources that I can put down here as well. Now do note, what can happen quite often on the multiviewer is sometimes you click it and the aspect ratio gets a little messed up. What I like to do at that point is I just like to shrink them down, and then here if you go to the properties, it's an aspect ratio, put back to original ratio. You might need to toggle it to something, so like let's say if I make it, I make it big. I can just come here and go like 4:3 and then go back to original ratio. There is a way if you go up to settings, preferences, lock aspect ratio. I'll keep that again. Settings, preferences, lock aspect ratio. It does default the aspect ratios to being locked here. Audio matrix. Kind of hard to show on a demo system, but on the Q8, every physical I/O connector can do 8 channels of embedded audio. It does also support Dante with 64 by 64 channels of audio. That's already pre-built into the system. So if you're doing that, I am able to route things through here. It's pretty straightforward on that. So if I have playback 1, I have 2 channels here. I want that to go to, let's say, I want that to go to Dante. I can open this up, have Dante 1, and I'm going to say 1, 2, and I've now routed these to Dante. I'll make a lot more specific videos of Pixel Hue stuff, but this is once again just kind of the down, dirty, get you up and running. Do play with the software, completely free. Do come take a training class. We'd love to have you, and happy hunting.